How Taylor Swift turned rejection, feuds, and losses into power. What do you do when the world calls you too emotional, too ambitious, too much? If you're Taylor Swift, you write a song about it, then turn it into a movement. From country sweetheart to global pop icon, Taylor's journey hasn't been just glitz and Grammys. It's been built on rejection, betrayal, public feuds, and devastating losses, each one adding another layer to her legacy. She's been torn down by critics, mocked by industry peers, and told to disappear, but instead of shrinking, she evolved. Again and again, this is not just a story about music. It's about reinvention, resilience, and reclaiming power. Let's unpack how Taylor Swift turned every low moment into a stepping stone for one of the most powerful careers in entertainment history. Early label rejection and Country Isn't Ready. Before Taylor Swift had a record-breaking Eras tour or billion-dollar empire, she was a 13-year-old girl walking into music label offices in Nashville only to be told she didn't fit. Labels weren't looking for young girls writing their own songs. Country radio wasn't ready for someone so young, so bold, and so unapologetically herself. But Taylor didn't give up. She learned guitar, kept writing, and eventually caught the eye of Scott Borchetta, launching Big Machine Records with her as its first artist. That early rejection didn't harden her, it lit a fire. She made herself undeniable. Her response wasn't revenge, it was success so loud they couldn't ignore her. The Kanye West VMA incident. In 2009, just as Taylor was rising in mainstream fame, the infamous MTV VMA incident with Kanye West happened. While accepting her award, Kanye stormed the stage and declared that Beyoncé had the better video. The moment was humiliating, broadcast to millions. Taylor stood there, stunned and silent, but it became a cultural flashpoint. Instead of retreating, she used it. In interviews, songs, and eventually full albums, she told her side. That one moment of public disrespect turned into years of creative fuel. It taught her the power of controlling your own narrative and laid the groundwork for her evolution from nice girl to unapologetic force. The Scooter Braun catalog controversy. In 2019, Taylor faced what many called her most heartbreaking career blow. The rights to her first 6 albums were sold to Scooter Braun without her consent. She described it as her worst nightmare. A catalog built from heartbreak, dreams, and identity was now in the hands of someone she accused of bullying. But Taylor didn't just tweet about it. She flipped the script. She announced she'd re-record all her original work, launching Taylor's version as a cultural and business revolution. It wasn't just about ownership, it was about reclaiming the power artists are too often denied. She turned corporate betrayal into the greatest comeback in music publishing history. Media mockery and too many boyfriends narrative. For years, the media didn't treat Taylor Swift like an artist. They treated her like a punchline. Her dating life became tabloid fodder, and the headlines mocked her for writing about heartbreak, for being clingy, calculating, or man-hopping. Late-night shows made her the butt of jokes. But instead of hiding, she embraced it and wrote hits like Blank Space, where she turned the caricature of herself into art. By owning the narrative and exaggerating it with wit and self-awareness, she stripped the media of its power. What they intended to shame her for became the very fuel of her artistry and her growth as a feminist voice in pop culture. Feud with Katy Perry. The feud with Katy Perry played out like a tabloid soap opera. Subtweets, shady music videos, and passive-aggressive interviews. For a while, fans chose sides, turning two powerful women into rivals for entertainment. But Taylor took something petty and turned it into growth. She addressed it through music, Bad Blood, acknowledged her own part in the conflict, and when the time was right, extended an olive branch. They eventually reconciled, with Katy even appearing in a burger suit in Taylor's "You Need to Calm Down" video. It was a masterclass in evolution, from drama to diplomacy. Taylor showed that healing can be public, powerful and deeply human, going silent after Reputation-era backlash. After a highly public fallout involving Kanye, Kim Kardashian, and the media, Taylor Swift disappeared. Literally. No interviews, no appearances, no social media. She went completely off the grid. Many speculated her career was over, that she had finally burned out or backed down. But in reality, she was planning her boldest reinvention yet. She returned with Reputation, a darker, edgier, unapologetic version of herself. The message was clear. She was done explaining. She'd weathered the storm and came back stronger, unfiltered, and fearless. That silence, it wasn't defeat, it was incubation. The era was about shedding old skin and stepping into total self-possession, being shut out by the Grammys. Despite massive commercial success and cultural impact, Taylor Swift hasn't always been recognized by the Recording Academy. Albums like Red and Reputation were largely shut out in major Grammy categories, leaving fans furious and critics puzzled. But Taylor didn't beg for validation. Instead, she got better. She shifted sounds, leaned deeper into storytelling, and eventually released Folklore, a surprise album that won Album of the Year twice. Instead of chasing approval, she redefined excellence on her own terms. The takeaway: even when the gatekeepers say no, you build your own gates and walk right through them. Criticism over political silence. For a long time, Taylor avoided political commentary, and it became a point of major criticism, especially during pivotal election years. She was called out for staying neutral, especially as her massive influence could sway millions. But Taylor was learning. In 2018, she broke her silence with a powerful Instagram post endorsing candidates who aligned with her values, causing a spike in voter registration overnight. Since then, she's become vocal about women's rights, LGBTQ+ issues, and democracy. What some saw as a weakness became a careful strategy. She didn't speak until she was ready, and when she did, it was with impact, not impulse, battling industry sexism. Throughout her career, Taylor has spoken about being silenced, dismissed, and patronized, especially by older male executives and critics who saw her as a product rather than a producer. But she quietly took back control. She began writing and producing her own music, directing her own videos, and calling her own creative shots. She's even won accolades for songwriting, not just singing, something few pop stars achieve. In an industry that constantly questions women's intelligence behind the scenes, Taylor Swift became one of the most powerful voices in music business. She didn't just beat sexism, she rewrote the rules on how to win in spite of it. Her mother's cancer battle and personal losses. Behind the fame and stadium lights, Taylor Swift has faced deeply personal heartbreak, none more devastating than her mother's cancer diagnosis. In interviews, Taylor has spoken with raw emotion about how her mom's illness reshaped her perspective on life, fame, and what truly matters. The pain and uncertainty bled into her music, especially in songs like Soon You'll Get Better, where she openly broke down during performances. It wasn't a chart move. It was a daughter processing grief through art. Instead of hiding her vulnerability, she shared it, creating space for fans dealing with similar pain. In an industry obsessed with perfection, Taylor chose to be real. Taylor Swift's story isn't about avoiding failure. It's about owning it, learning from it, and turning it into fuel. From public humiliation to private heartbreak, from legal battles to label wars, she's taken every hit and made it part of her evolution. She's not just a pop star. She's a strategist, a survivor, and a storyteller who refuses to be silenced. If her journey has taught us anything, it's this: you don't have to wait for permission to take your power back. If this inspired you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who's fighting their own battles. Drop your favorite Taylor Swift lyric in the comments. We'll be watching.